I've been sitting around trying to decide what I wanted to do for a video. And then I figured, you know what I haven't done in a long time? Owned a religious person. Seriously, it must have been a long-ass time. And since Islam is my least favorite religion, I figure I'd take on a Muslim. Let's get started.
I think Islam is the most misunderstood religion in the world.
You're right. In many conversations with people, I find they have no idea who Muhammad is. They have no idea what his life was like. They have no idea of the overarching totalitarian legal system that comes with Islam. They have no idea about the blood-curdling violence demanded of the faith. They have no idea about its expansionist tendencies. They don't understand anything about Islam.
Not just by non-Muslims, but by Muslims as well. Many non-Muslims' information about Islam is based on what they see on television and in the movies.
Like this charming clip.
انت مسلمة؟ بسملة انت تعرفي اليهود؟ بتحبيهم؟ لا ما بتحبيهمش ليه؟ كده عشان هم ايه؟ هم قردة وخنازير. عشان هم قردة وخنازير؟ مين قال عليهم كده؟ ربنا. قال عليهم فين؟ في القرآن. قال عليهم في القرآن كده صح. طب ويا بسملة اليهود بيعملوا ايه؟ بيعملوا ايه؟ شركة بيت.
Quality television.
And many Muslims are born to this religion without anyone really explaining it to them. And unfortunately, their actions and their behavior reflects their lack of understanding. And finally, you have people who twist the verses of the Quran in order to spread their hate.
Hooray! Another lecture on hate from the very people that brought us hate crimes and hate speech. Hey, jackass, hatred isn't an independent thing. It's a thought. You're talking about thought crime. Don't get in my head and tell me I can't think what I think. Fuck you. And I don't expect a PC panty waist like you to understand this, but hatred is not always a bad thing.
I grew up here in America, and like most Americans, I knew very little, if anything, about Islam. And the very few Muslims that I did come across, they didn't practice. So since their actions were just like everyone else's, I really had no interest in asking what they believed in. You see, I wasn't really raised with any religion, and honestly, I really didn't care much about any of them. Coming from a science background, you have to convince me intellectually if you want me to change my way.
Science background. Yeah, keep that in mind, boys and girls.
Otherwise, anyone can make up a religion and say it's from God.
Like an 8th century bloodthirsty pedophile.
Each time someone tried to sell me on following their religion, I was given vague answers whenever I asked for evidence.
Here's a fun drinking game. Do a shot every time this guy's evidence turns out to be incredibly vague.
If you want me to give up my desires in this world, then you better come up with something more than this religion is the truth because this book says it's the truth.
Yeah, idiots. Not only does this book say it's the truth, it threatens to burn you alive if you don't believe it. You fucking idiots. Oh wait, so does this one.
Prove to me that this book is perfect, just like the Creator, and then I'll follow it.
What perfection? Where are you getting this standard of perfection from? Allah's perfect? Why? Because he's Allah? Because he says so? Those aren't answers. Just because you create the universe doesn't mean you're perfect. That just means you're really, really powerful. Even if I were to grant you this insane premise that God is just somehow perfect, this book is clearly not. Without even going into the contradictions and the bad science and the blood-curdling moral advice, here's one way you could improve the Quran. Put it in fucking order. That's right, the surahs in this book are not in fucking order. And considering you have to go by the later in chronology surah in order to know what the hell God wants, because God changes his mind quite a great deal, he's omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent, but he just doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He doesn't know exactly what he's commanding. He's perfectly incompetent. There's a standard of perfection for you. Yeah, put the surahs in order. And maybe translate it into a language we all understand. Or create multiple editions. Would that be so hard? The perfect God expects me to learn 8th century Arabic. What the fuck? What in the blue fuck? Why the hell would he want me to learn 8th century Arabic? Something I'm pretty much incapable of. I'll never know the... I'll never speak it like a native speaker. Nobody ever will. So, there you go. There are two glaring faults with this book. That's somehow perfect. You're a retard.
Otherwise, if the book even has one error, it proves it's been written or edited by man.
Please prove to me why God can't be lying.
So different people from different religions used to knock on my door. And once the discussions got down to evidence, they had no answers.
Really? What a shock.
And that wasn't going to fly with me. And then I discovered Islam. And shortly after, I became Muslim. So why Islam? You see, I became Muslim before 9/11, before all this propaganda.
You mean the president constantly bleating that Islam is a religion of peace? Yeah, I'm a little bit sick of that propaganda too.
Today, if you watch TV long enough, you'll believe that this religion is a religion of fanatics.
And if you ask serious questions about Islam in the future, like Mark Stein did in America Alone, you might just get dragged before a Canadian Human Rights Commission. Fuck help you if you draw a cartoon.
But that's not true, but rather it's the exact opposite.
And yet there are jihadists everywhere. Imagine that. Your perfect God gave a perfect message to his perfect messenger, and somehow so many of your people managed to interpret the exact opposite. Fascinating.
When I started studying Islam, I found it very comprehensive, very practical.
Yeah, like if someone steals from you, you hack off their hand. If someone doesn't believe like you do, then impose special taxations upon them, if you're able. If your wife being a bit of a bitch, beat the shit out of her. If you beat her too much that she's too ugly, you don't even want to fuck her anymore, fuck the other three. Very practical.
In fact, when it comes to discussing the existence of the Creator, Islam teaches you to think and reflect, to observe the world around you.
Unless, of course, you're a biologist or a geologist or anyone who could really disprove the hysterical rantings of an 8th century epileptic pedophile.
Because when you start investigating, you realize how complex things are. And through our human experience, we realize that complex things just don't come out of nowhere.
Allahu Akbar!
If you and I were walking down my street and we saw the complex buildings and the...
if I had a watch for every time some asshole rephrased the watchmaker argument, I'd be deaf from the collective ticking.
You see, even though you don't see the engineers and the builders who put this all together, that doesn't mean that they don't exist.
And just because you have an 18th century view of biology doesn't mean the rest of us are so laughably ignorant.
Not just that, but you get an idea of the intelligence of the Creator just by checking out His creation.
This is a hand infected with flesh-eating bacteria. Why did your God create flesh-eating bacteria?
The amazing thing is that all these man-made structures are rather simple when you compare it to something as complex as a living organism, like a fly. If the entire world got together to build something as complex as a fly and then put life into it, they couldn't do it.
We've cloned sheep and genetically engineered almost everything we eat. Why couldn't we create a fly?
And that's just a fly.
And this is Dolly, an artificial sheep. Somewhat more complicated than a fly.
The point is that we don't see order spontaneously arising out of chaos.
Yeah, actually the biosphere is in a constant state of shift. What's your point?
But rather, our human experience tells us that when we see something working by precise mechanisms...
My grandfather needs to get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night at least twice. I have had to have surgery twice. Our bodies aren't perfect mechanisms.
That someone had to put it together.
And then create blood-curdling maladies like Lou Gehrig's disease that pick you apart piece by fucking piece as you die a slow and agonizing death. Now why would he do that? Boredom?
And that someone cannot be a human being.
Unless he was a psychopath in the level of Stalin, Hitler, or Muhammad.
Because we know human beings are imperfect and limited, while the Creator of all things is perfect and infinite.
We do? I don't know that. I know nothing about the Creator of the universe. In fact, I rather doubt that there was a Creator of the universe.
So therefore, he can't be an idol or a cow or even a human being.
How big do you think the universe is? This is fucking pathetic. I'll never understand this mentality. If you had any idea how big the universe is, even if you wouldn't concede this insane notion that it was invented by some guy with a personality just like you, only quote-unquote perfect, how would you justify him being obsessed with your life? If this Creator existed, I'll guarantee you he's about as concerned about your life as Barack Obama is concerned about the fate of the ant colony in my backyard.
Because how can a Creator who is infinite be killed by his creation?
That's not tricky editing, by the way. He actually went from, cows couldn't have created everything, to, how can they kill God? God is infinite. If cows created everything, they'd have to kill God first. Is your mind really that riddled with non sequiturs? I need to drink more, because how else am I going to get the lesbian robot whores out of my closet?
How can he die? He can't.
Why not? Doesn't God have the power to commit suicide? Doesn't that limit his powers somewhat to take that away from him?
So if the creator of all things is perfect, then his book can only be perfect.
Unless, of course, the creator of the universe doesn't exist, or the creator of the universe isn't perfect, or the creator of the universe chose to write a deliberately imperfect book, or someone claiming to be the creator of the universe handed you that book, or perfection's a subjective term. I can go on and on and on here. You haven't managed to prove anything. But keep talking.
So when I started investigating and studying different books, the only book that I came to find perfect
was Mark Stein's America Alone.
Without error.
Surah 18, verse 86. When he reached the place where the sun sets, he found it setting in a muddy spring, and by it he found a people.